We protect what we love. That is beautiful, which is produced by the inner need, which springs from the soul. Nature is my medicine. 3 out of the tens of profound phrases that Marghanita Hughs, a nature art educator and special education teacher, says and writes from the British Columbian breathtaking mountains, addressing educators all over the world about our inner beauty that is intertwined with that of nature. I have long been a person and an educator who strongly believes in our inner beauty that is part of nature, Mother Earth. Whatever scientists, doctors, engineers, philosophers have done throughout history stems out of nature. And unfortunately, education systems have separated all that wisdom into school subjects, and that's how this wisdom got dissipated, and so was much of our balance, inner beauty, and coherence. That's what I stands for in my O.R.B.I.T.S approach, O.R.B.I.T.S, that I have developed during my past 20 years. Integrate your mind and emotion in the daily tasks and school improvement processes. It is at this intersection point that Marghanita and I meet. This is our nature, this is your nature, and we are all one. Welcome back to O.R.B.I.T.S Consulting. My name is Manal Zainuddin, Global Education Consultant and founder of O.R.B.I.T.S Development Code, an approach for conscious learning and being. This podcast highlights education communities from macro and micro angles, leadership, learning, personal and professional growth across multiple disciplines. Education is holistic and as vast and infinite as the cosmos. As we bring stories, interviews, talks, and projects from around this globe, I extend Plutarch's famous quote that I had posted in all the schools I have worked in: "The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled." I would like to add one more thing. During the interview, you will notice that my guest's voice is very clear while mine is not, due to a technical error. Unfortunately, I noticed that after we finished recording, so I would really appreciate if you just bear with me this first guest episode. And I'm very also blessed with my dear guest, Marghanita, who said, that's not a problem. As long as we have a very, very genuine message from our hearts to yours, then definitely you will resonate with that. So thank you again for being here, and let's all welcome Marghanita. Marghanita Hughs is an educator, artist, author, and illustrator deeply committed to reuniting children with the natural world through art. She is the founder of Educating the Heart with Nature Art, an international nature art program which provides solutions for educators, parents, and organizations wishing to reconnect children with nature and encourage them to explore and celebrate their creativity. Marghanita's art projects focus on the interconnectedness we have with one another and all living things, and can be integrated into any curriculum. She has also written and illustrated many children's picture books and is a member of O.R.B.I.T.S. Marghanita, I am so pleased to have you as my first guest on this podcast.
I'm so pleased to be here and feel very honored that I am your first guest. That's beautiful, Manal.
Thank you so much. Actually, I came across your work through some of your posts about your work in nature and with children. And I remember very well one of the posts in which you shared a photo with a wooden forest road sign that says, "Let the forest echo with laughter." A little amazing blue fairy of your own creation sitting at the bottom of the wooden signpost. And you and one of your adorable girl learners exploring some twigs or collecting some from the ground. That was not pretty clear, but what was clear was that I almost heard that echo, and my heart danced in the sweetness and the serenity of that scene. That's when I decided to write to you, and we became very close friends and colleagues, sharing the same yearning for nature and children who are happy, stress-free, smiling, and running confidently. It was what I always wished that children would feel: free, happy, confident, and engaged in real learning with teachers who are also stress-free, happy, and confident. Today, we will be talking about all that: your journey, your views about education, and mainly your recommendations and suggestions to all educators around this globe. And here I mean 21st century skills and strategies, including project-based learning and STEAM. We will be selecting best practices that can be applied in schools, which are not necessarily nature schools, including the fact that schools and educational bodies all over the world have been impacted deeply by COVID-19, and technology is unfortunately inevitable in the process. So we will be highlighting the role of art and nature in helping educators and families face mental health issues that have increased also due to the pandemic and the lockdowns. So I also invite our listeners to check later a free PDF that is available on your website, www.marghanita.com. I find it actually amazing because of the way you portray your own childhood. My early childhood education was at home, and I had three amazing teachers: my mother, my father, and Mother Nature. So this is what you say, and I think this is a great point to start with.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I had an amazing childhood. I really did. And I guess that's what I base my whole education and educating other children and other teachers. It's deeply rooted in my own early childhood education, which was at home until the age of 5 when I went to school. But I had three amazing teachers in my early childhood education, as you said: my mother, my father, and Mother Nature. I got to play outdoors all day. I mean, literally, we were out from as soon as we got up and went out and played and explored and experimented among the trees, among the birds, the flowers and the bees. And my parents were both art teachers. So there was art books around the house. There was art materials, always accessible, easily accessible for my brothers, my three brothers and myself. So we were allowed to explore and experiment with these art materials, and there was no agenda. We had this freedom. We had this freedom to nurture our own ideas and thoughts and passions through these beautiful art materials, but also outdoors in nature, exploring and experimenting with fallen branches and building gang huts, making things. I've always made things with my hands. I've always been excited and inspired by the natural environment. And I think all children are, but they're just not being given the opportunity to do that. So my early childhood education, I had this freedom to be who I needed to be, to grow into who I needed to be. Before going off to school. And I think early childhood education doesn't allow for that freedom. I think it's very controlled. And that's really where we need to make that shift. And it is, you know, my whole being was nurtured when I was young, the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. And I think being outdoors in nature allows for that so much more than being contained within four walls.
This is so true, especially for most children around the world, and also those children living in urban places as well, living in apartments when they cannot have access to nature. Wow, this is a privilege, I guess.
Yeah.
This brings us to speak about the role of childhood agency in the upbringing of a person. You always speak about giving children the freedom to explore and take risks. And this is one of the 21st century skills. How important is that, and how can it be applied in today's regular schools?
Yeah, I think risk-taking is fundamentally important. It's how we learn about ourselves and about our environment around us. Where young children are natural risk takers. They want to experiment and explore what they can actually do, you know, without knowing the outcome. And so risk-taking is about that. And so it could be as simple as jumping from one rock to another outdoors. It could be constructing something that could be potentially, but they don't know how that's going to work, but we'll just make it work. We'll experiment and explore, and we might not get, like, say, there's tires in the garden and they have planks of wood, and so they're wanting to create a bridge to get over a certain piece of land, and so they construct that. They don't know what the outcome's going to be, but they're going to try it anyway because it's a thrill, it's exciting, and they may fail, and they might fall over and even cut a knee or bruise an arm. But that's all part of life learning, isn't it? And we get up and we try again, and we keep persisting until we actually do it. So it makes us more resilient, it makes us stronger, and it makes us excited to try new things. And life is so challenging, as we have witnessed and experiencing right this moment, that it is very unpredictable. We don't know what is happening right now, and so we, in that risk taking, it makes us more resilient, it makes us stronger, so that we can cope with changes that we're not sure of, and so we can walk into that a little bit more stronger. And so yes, you're saying, so yes, we don't maybe have an outdoor facility. So how do we take these risks? Well, we can do them and we could use blocks instead of, since we didn't have recycled tires or big boulders outside, we can use building blocks in the classroom. Give some space for the children, allow them to experiment and explore and take those risks with the blocks, with some planks of wood. If you don't have it in your classroom, use the gym. If you have a gym in your school, use your gym. Allow them to run a little bit freer, a little bit more space. Hide and seek is another wonderful one, where you're hiding and exploring. You don't know where they're going to be going. A cardboard box, that could be a gang hut, that could be a building. Putting the roof over it, putting some kind of cover over it, that's a risk as well. What would that be like? How does that feel? And so all these other things, a hammer, you were hammering nails into, or the golf tees into pumpkins and wood, and so experimenting, taking risks with tools that they've maybe not been used to. So things like that give them confidence. It builds on the child's confidence. It makes them stronger. And that's what we need right now, is that strength, that confidence to, I can do this, I can get through this. I'm capable. And I think it's believing in the child's capability. We always say, oh, take care, and that's like, as soon as you say that, you're thinking they're maybe not capable. So it's giving them that trust that I believe that they're capable.
Wow, this is so powerful. And I think you and I today are sending out this message to not only to educators, but also to leaders and to parents who might not find this feasible or applicable, and they might feel that they lose control if they give autonomy to children. And this is what most educators are facing in the world. So I join my voice to you today through this episode. Well, let's try this, because this is also a chance for them to experiment, and learning comes with error, as we always say.
Absolutely. Yes. This
is amazing. Marghanita, with your type of work, nature education, there are no curriculum, instruction, and assessments in the sense that we know. But today, many educators who are listening to us still operate within the status quo, textbooks, notebooks, tests, standardized tests. And this is a part of today's world and may need time to change. So I have always thought that no matter what we believe in about education, we still need to cater to children and educators who are the majority in this world. So throughout your classes and courses, you work on themes and projects with your children and adults. So how do you think this can be achieved in regular schools, non-nature, non-Montessori schools? And here I mean with curriculum, instruction, and assessment.
First of all, I think that we need to just relax a little bit more and not take everything so seriously. I think there's just such a seriousness, and we're talking about children. We're not talking about adults here. They're young little minds and hearts and bodies that need to grow, need to be nurtured, with love and with tenderness and with appreciation and honor and respect. So the curriculum is just so academically structured, which we have to have academics, but I truly believe that we can bring nature and art into all subjects in school, and that through that the children are being nurtured fully. So that's it's the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. It's not just about the mind. It's not just about the body. It's the complete whole child. And the emphasis here is on building relationships with each other, building relationships with their environment, and learning about themselves. And so we can do this through the curriculum as well. So say we were learning, we had to learn some math. It's as simple as that. We can be doing the counting with natural materials. So they're forming a relationship with the natural materials outside. Symmetry. If we just look at nature in itself, Mother Nature gives us all this beautiful knowledge and wisdom and understanding of how the world works, how math is, symmetry, geometry, it can all be found there in the natural world. And yes, we may not be able to get our children out into these environments in order to experience it firsthand in the natural world. We can bring nature into the classroom. We can bring these experiences and allow the children to touch and feel and explore the leaves that they're counting, the cones, that the shape on the spirals, through the shells and the pine cones, and so we can base our curriculum around nature. We can actually infuse it and have these wonderful, beautiful art experiences that allows the child to explore their own connection with these materials. So they're forming relationships with nature, they're forming materials with forming relationships with the art materials. So they're beginning to express themselves creatively, their thoughts, their ideas, their emotions, but they're learning through this. And nature has this amazing way of inviting us to play, explore, experiment, and create. And that's really what we want. We want to be able to base our learning on the play. The learning is through play, it's through the senses. And when we step outdoors into nature, all our senses are being stimulated. And it allows us to, for an example, and then I know we can't, again, it's going back to being in an indoor environment and an outdoor environment. Now, say your classroom and your school is in an urban setting, but you have access to even just stepping outside. It's concrete and it is a concrete jungle, but you're still, as soon as you go outside, the light's forever changing. And there's the air, so you're surrounded by the elements, so you're actually in connection with nature straight away, and so that it stimulates the child's experience. In an indoor environment, it's very static, it's very exhausting. The amount of times that I've been to schools and I go into the classroom and the children are exhausted. They're just so lethargic, and so is the teacher, and it's like, oh my goodness, open the windows if you can't get outside, let the fresh air circulate, let's get some movement, let's get up and move and dance and move about. We weren't meant to sit around, and just be these robots.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it's also related to giving more value to nature and to art in the entire combination of. So we can't keep saying that there is no room for art or there is no room for nature art when we really show the value. And I think this is the role of leaders. If they show, if they give value to these, the same way they give this value to the core subjects of the mathematics and the English language arts and sciences, and they have to record all those in those report cards and progress reports. So this can be part. It's when it's not unintentionally neglected in a way, just to give more room to other core subjects. So I think also that it's also the role of the leaders to help teachers apply whatever you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's giving it value, and it does have huge value. A child needs to learn that they are part of their environment. They are part of nature. They are also a unique and beautiful individual, highly creative.
Right.
And if they're not being allowed to express themselves creatively, it just becomes robotic. It just becomes a performance. We're just performing. The children are just performing, and that's not an education. We need to be able to nurture who the child is, and that they are unique individuals. And I think school can be very, it doesn't focus on the individual child, and it's very structured, and it doesn't allow for that freedom of expression.
Yes, that's what we're calling
today.
That's right. So your art creations, mainly those that incorporate construction and arrangements, can be applied in STEAM activities, and this is so interesting. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, building straight away, when you think about going outdoors and building, say, a den or a giant structure. We do lots of giant, we call them fairy houses, but they're like a giant teepee, okay? So the child needs to, first of all, go and collect and hunt and gather. And we're natural hunters and gatherers. We evolved from nature. So that just feels so natural to go and collect things. I mean, they just love doing that, and that's getting them physically active as well. While they're touching and collecting and gathering, they're connecting. They're making that connection that they are part of nature. They're touching, they're feeling. Again, it's that whole sensory experience. They're learning through their senses. And so they find the branches and the large sticks. So they need to, here comes in the math, and they need to realize how many branches and sticks they'll actually need to make the structure. They're going to be all different sizes. So we need large ones. So we're looking for a long length branches for the main structure. And then we're going to be building and using smaller branches. So they need to do measurements. So they're doing the mass, they're measuring, there's construction, there's
engineering, actually.
Engineering, that's the word I was looking for, engineering. So we're looking at the STEM, right? So it's covering all of that. We can also incorporate architecture. So it's a home, you know, we're looking at a teepee structure. Who lived in the teepee? So we're looking at culture. So we're bringing culture, we're bringing history, we're bringing science and engineering, and they're working individually, but they're also working in collaboration with each other. Yes. So they're just in one simple activity, they're learning so much, and they're learning about themselves, they're learning about their friends, they're learning with their teacher, they're learning, they're forming relationships. They're forming relationships with each other and the natural world, and it's beautiful.
And this is a very important point you just mentioned. STEAM in particular, it's not just a combination of science, mathematics, technology, engineering, and art. It is also about working together and collaborations, because this is how grand projects around the world were formed. So this is absolutely amazing, and I fully agree with you.
And so this is what early childhood education is all about. We're setting this foundation, and unless it's a happy and healthy and nurturing that whole child and foundation, there is going to be problems further on in life if we don't have that happy, healthy foundation. And it's nurturing that whole child. It's giving that space that for the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul.
And assessment can be part of this. You can have a rubric and assess what they're doing. So that's why I always say we can always find room to integrate all of these things. We can't always say, well, this is for nature school and this is for Montessori school. We can always integrate everything.
Yes. And I'd just like to say, I've made structures indoors as well. We can do that. We've made giant stick people, like 7-foot stick people, huge big structures in school gyms, but we can do it in the classroom as well. And you know, the structures don't have to be large. We can bring all the natural materials and make them smaller structures. So they're like mini structures in the classroom. And they work together, they're making these. We can even make tiny little homes for the fairy homes. So there's their imagination. The child is exploring their imagination. Who would live in these wee homes? And then that leads to so many other beautiful journeys for the children. And it's play-based, right? It's play-based. We must remember about the play. And that sadly is not, we need to trust in the play. It really is fundamental way of how children learn.
Absolutely. What also catches my attention is you're saying always process over product. And I fully agree with that. In today's schools, textbook and test-oriented schools, learners are assessed and even classified based on the product. How can you explain the significance of the process? And I think we just mentioned some of this. And this is a very significant aspect of project-based learning.
Yeah, oh, totally. The process is where it gives it the most, the child gets the most joy and satisfaction from the process. It's the journey of discovery. So say we're like making the structure. I mean, it's fantastic to see the structure at the end, but it's that process is fundamental to their joy, but also their learning. Let's say we're making something like a mandala outside or inside. In fact, let me give you an example of a mandala inside. And so we can't get out and get the leaves because it's snowing and it's freezing cold, and the leaves are all covered up in the snow. So let's go inside and let's use, what can we use inside? So we could use oranges and lemons. I have it here just because it's just it's such a multi-sensory experience. Right. Well, it's easy and accessible. What we do is we peel them. So again, there's this wee risk of cutting through the actual peel, the skin of the lemon and the orange. And visualizing this, because you're not seeing me. So visualizing how we're getting our scissors and we're cutting out leaf shapes with the skins. These are going to be our loose parts to make our mandala. Now, the mandala is the finished product, right? We're talking about the product, but it's the process. So straight away, the children are learning about the oranges and the lemons. The smell alone is just so invigorating. That makes our brains more active just by the scent. The scent of it is beautiful, and it is conducive to learning and being attentive, being able to listen to if there are instructions. So they're playing and they're experimenting and exploring with this material that's quite new to them, these skins, and they're cutting, so they're getting the motoring skills, they're learning about shapes, the shape of a leaf, what's the shape of the leaf like? So we're cutting these pieces, and it's not about getting an exact leaf shape. It's just about cutting, and it's their wee leaf. It may not even look like a leaf. It might just be so jagged and it's so different, but it's unique and it's theirs, and they've created it. And so then we start with a circle, and then a circle within a circle, and then there's just this beautiful journey of learning about shapes and what a mandala actually means. We're all a circle. That we're all in the circle of life, and that we're all one, and yet we're all unique and individual. So there's this beautiful learning, this holistic learning about themselves, about their experiences, and so the product, we have this beautiful mandala at the end, but it's that journey. Look at the journey that was involved in just getting there. It's beautiful. It's absolutely fantastic. Now the process, they're learning about themselves, they're learning about the materials, they're learning about their connection with each other, with the materials, with the mandala, with the whole story that was involved in that. And that's just one example of the process of the product. They can dance beautifully together. I'll give you a quick example, the stick person. So they're going outside and they're hunting for their stick, their branch, to be this little being, this character. They're making a character with their stick. They own that stick, right? If you don't allow them to go and get the stick, the branch, it doesn't really mean anything to them. If they get to hunt and gather for that piece of material that they're going to be working with, they own it. They have a relationship with that already. If we cannot get the children out to get their sticks, we bring the branches in, but we scatter them about so they can actually go and hunt for it, even if it's indoors. That's really important, that they have that sense of belonging. Okay, so they have their little stick. Now we could make it as simple as anything, as just twiddling a little face, and that's it. That's their little stick person. So they've had that journey. Or we can give them other materials that they can choose using their own imagination to make this beautiful stick person. It could be wool and yarn to give it a wee body, a coat, a jacket, leaves, branches, anything, all lots of the different natural items that we can find in nature and indoors as well. So we're creating this little being. They've made that, and they've had that beautiful process because it's been their creation, their imagination. It's been what they decided they wanted to use to make their wee being. Now they have this beautiful being. Now what happens usually in a classroom is they've made the product and it just gets left because they've got to go on to something else. This is what frustrates me more than anything, because they're not getting allowed to play with this product that we've just made. Let them play, so that this play becomes storytelling. It becomes imaginative play. They're interacting with each other. They can do stories. They can write about it as well if they're old enough to write. If they're not, they can draw their little stories in a storybook. Just the possibilities of learning after they've made the product, it's like this beautiful organic flow. And that's what happens in our classes. So much of product is just, what it is just action. It's just being told, following instructions to make this product, and then, oh, we've made the product, now we can put it aside because that's it completed, and they get tested on that and whatever. This is not what it's about. It's about allowing them to have that beautiful creative process of expressing their ideas and thoughts and how they want their character, and then allowing them to play, and that flow on to storytelling and imaginative play, and going off into making little dens and areas in the classroom or outdoors for their little stick people. It's just beautiful, and it's not, it just doesn't get enough of that. We don't get enough.
This is amazing what you just said, because, you know, throughout my years as a director, this is something that I really did not like. When a project would be done and then it would just be put aside, it's not used. I think again we are talking about the value of the product that we make. And another thing is that here we are not focusing only on the objects that are purchased. We're not only focusing on the toys, and this is a real concern, at least for me, because I'm also a mother and an educator, and I understand how it is when we are always looking forward to find those external things, those external belongings, and this mainly it's toys, and children now are only satisfied with toys, and lately they're satisfied with apps, playing those video games. So we are moving away from these natural products that are always available for us. This is absolutely amazing.
Well, it's about imagination. It's about, and that is being destroyed. That totally is, because it's being taken away from them. They're not getting to use it. And if you don't use it, it does, you know, you have to keep using it. And I guess that's my biggest thing, is my greatest tool for sure is my imagination.
Yes, this is amazing. I am sure we have special education teachers among our listeners. What can you tell them about your best moments and about your best strategies that you apply with those, I always say, adorable children?
Yes, it's very it's very different, and it's very beautiful, and I think it's more. I think I get more out of it than anything. I think for me, I'm learning just as much as from those children as they do from me. I think it's a beautiful dance. It truly is. It's quite moving. I work with several, but there's one child who's been coming to my classes for 3 years now, and she has a very rare brain disorder, where she can go into a seizure, and before she had her operation, her seizures were life-threatening, so she could die at any potentially from these seizures before she had her operation. So even just being around her, watching her, the pure joy that she got from being out in nature, being free, to explore and experience that natural world, to be who she needed to be, because most of her other activities that she needed to do was so structured and was so demanding, physically and emotionally. This allowed her just to be her, and that's what all children deserve, right? And so that freedom allowed her just to be Elise and express her ideas and thoughts and emotions through all the different art processes and activities that we were involved in together. And it's just watching her utter joy. She never complains. You know, she has to deal with so much. And we're talking about resilience earlier. This child is incredible, that what she has to go through and what she experiences and what the rest of her family obviously have to experience too, is just humbling. And so just being able to be around her and see that joy flood through her and blossom, you know, she blossoms in her creativity.
Marghanita, your project Mail a Smile is truly impressive during COVID-19. Tell us more about it, please.
Okay, so when we had to start wearing masks, and obviously for serious reasons, it does cover our smile, right? And I know we can smile through our eyes, and that's very important to be able to do that. But I just felt really sad that I couldn't see students' smiles. I couldn't see when I went out to do my shopping and whatever. I was just missing this humanness that we have, and part of the beauty of being human is to share that smile. It's the beginning of love, and it's very powerful and very beautiful, and I missed that. So I wanted to encourage people to send a smile, and I didn't want them to. And again, it's getting away from technology. This was totally about not using technology. It was about going back to expressing ourselves through our own unique style. So creating a smile by drawing it or painting it, or even as I got some of my students to do nature art once, where they made the face with leaves and flowers to make their smile. And then once making their smile, to send it to somebody. There's so many people that are lonely right now. They're finding it, they're really struggling. And to share a smile is the most beautiful, sacred thing to do. And it's a win-win situation, because the person creating the smile is getting to be creative. It's a beautiful journey to create a smile and be a smile. And when you smile, even if you're not feeling that happy, it makes you instantly, you feel better, you feel happier. And it's contagious. So when you put this smile onto a piece of paper and put it in an envelope and post it to somebody, that receiver is going to feel so good. You took this time to make this beautiful smile, and here it is, they're opening it up, and it's making them smile. So it's just this beautiful interaction between two people. And my heart melted. We had this school, and all the children created these smiles, put them in envelopes, and she marched them they got to walk to the nearest post box, and all these children sending these and posting them in the mail was just such a joy for me to see. So I encourage everybody to do this, to just create a smile, make a smile, paint it, draw it, sketch it, and we're not judging. This is so important about art in early education, in all ages, that we're not judging your art. There's no bad art. These are happy, beautiful smiles. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's yours alone. It's your beautiful image. So popping it into an envelope, sticking a stamp on, and sending it to somebody, someone you love. That's maybe my whole family are back in Scotland. So to send them smiles is just beautiful. It doesn't have to be a loved one. It could be some, you know, you might have heard of the elders who are in nursing homes and they're all alone. Get the children to send them smiles to these people who are lonely. That is going to make them happy, opening up these smiles. And the thing about it, if you were just to it's so easy just to take a photograph of a child and their smile and it gets sent and it's an email. That's not what this is about. I don't want that. I want the children to be involved in putting it in an envelope and sending it, and understanding that it takes a while to get there. It's not instant like Instagram or an email. This takes time and effort, and we learn about, you know, with the older students, you can involve them in what is a stamp, where did it, how, there's artists that are creating these beautiful images as a stamp. So we learn the process of a stamp. The journey of how a stamp is made is fascinating. What is mail? What is all of this experience? You know, so we can delve into the history of stamps and mail before technology. And when the receiver has it, they can stick it on the wall. You know, if you've got a photograph, an email, you can't look at it all the time, right? You can have this beautiful smile on your fridge or on your wall, so that when you pass it, you're smiling. It's making you feel good. It's just such a beautiful way to express ourselves and give joy and peace and love to sharing the love, sharing the love.
That's full engagement, I guess. And even educators need that, even teachers who have been going through so much during the pandemic.
Totally. And, you know, I feel for the educators, and I know that so many of them want to bring this more holistic approach to education, that they do. It's just finding ways, and nature art can do that. It can be woven into the curriculum and make it a much more joy-filled journey. And if you make it a joy-filled journey for the children, learning should be joy-filled. And if it is, they'll want to return again and again. And that's what it should be.
Yes, that's full engagement and full connection.
Yes, absolutely.
Coming to the last question in this episode, when you speak about your mission, you say it is to return our children to Mother Earth and reawaken the awe and wonder in those of us who have forgotten. What have we forgotten?
We've forgotten that we are part of nature, you know, that we're deeply rooted to the natural world and that we're highly creative, each and every one of us. I feel there's this huge disconnection to the natural world. We see it as something we go to rather than we are part of. So it's going back to who we are, and looking at that question ourselves as teachers. What is our connection to the natural world? How do we feel about nature? And also asking ourselves and seeing ourselves as an artist. How can I become an artist? How can I share the arts with my students? Well, I need to realize that I am an artist too. And I love working with educators who they come to me and they say, oh no, I haven't drawn since I was at school myself, and I can't do it. I'm not an artist. And I go, no, you are. You just need to believe that you are, right? You just need to spend some time doing it. And it's the same with nature. You know, they feel like, well, I can't take the children outdoors. I don't understand about the trees, and I'm not a biologist and all of this. And no, you don't have to be. You just need to have an appreciation and understanding of it. And you can only get that by spending time in it, with it, observing the trees, touching the trees, smelling the trees, immersing yourself in the natural world. And again, I know I'm going to hear people saying, but you know, we're not next to the woods or whatever, one single tree. You can have one single tree in your city, at the end of your street. Go and visit that tree, watch it, observe it. There's going to be birds, there's going to be insects. There's so many learning opportunities just from one single tree.
Wow, this is amazing. And I would love to add here a point that now that we are heading towards technology in its fullest forms, and COVID-19 even left us no choice. So with the lockdowns and online learning, So now I think I join my voice to this call of bringing back balance again. So we are not just brains that are functioning and minds and hearts. We are also souls. And once we ensure that all this cohesiveness is there, this is what will keep us sustainably well throughout this technology movement, because it's here. We cannot avoid it. It's very good. It's very helpful. Now we are communicating through technology, and this is amazing, actually. But we cannot. It cannot only be the only medium of communication between people, because we were not born that way. We were not. We have our souls and our hearts communicate through our relationships, and these relationships cannot always occur through technology and through screens. So I think this is what you have just said is amazing about nature art. And now, like I said, more than ever, we need to focus on maintaining balance and nourishing our inner voices. This is what I have always spoken about, and it is an integral part of my approach and mission as well now. It was such an incredible talk with you, Marghanita Hughs, nature art teacher and educator. Marghanita and I have been working together on a project, and we will surely meet again and share it here with our listeners. I would like to thank you from the depths of my heart to the depths of the British Columbia forest in which you spend your days creating and living your life purpose. I can simply say you are truly blessed.
Thank you. I truly feel that I am incredibly blessed to have this freedom and this understanding of our deep-rooted connection with the natural world, and bringing it to others is a joyful journey for sure, absolutely, through creative explorations.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Marghanita. If you are a frequent listener to this podcast, you know that I always end my episodes with an open-ended question for all of us to ponder. And today, with our very special guest, I will leave this question to Marghanita Hughs.
Okay, so I kind of I'd like you to visualize this forest that you can all enter and experience. Like I was saying before, that we need to use our imagination and visualize a stronger and better future. And I think nature and the arts plays a huge part in that. Like you said, that bringing that harmony and balance, and right now, because of technology, is such a huge part of our lives, we need to balance that. So my question is, how do you build the bridge to get to that forest? What does that bridge look like, and how are you going to manage to get the bridge built? And I was thinking back to earlier in my career of bringing the nature art to my community, and in order to reach others, I started doing pop-up nature art classes, and that was taking them to the art galleries, popping up at the local library, asking the community members, such as the farmers, the local farmers, we would do them on the farmland. And so it's, how would you visualize that bridge? How can you get your community involved in order to create this bridge, and not waiting for, it takes a long time to actually build and construct a bridge. So don't leave it until we're past COVID. Now is the time to think about and get into action about building that bridge. How do you build that bridge? How do you bring nature, the forest, the wonders of the natural world, that joy that the children need in their lives right now, that love and that beauty? How do you bring that into the classroom? How do you build that bridge?